Guided exercise number 4 says estimate the area under the curve f of x equals sine of x between x equals 0 and x equals pi over 2 using left endpoints and 4 rectangles of equal width. Make a rough sketch of the graph and use it to decide whether your estimate is an overestimate or an underestimate. So usually when we do these area estimates, we won't actually draw a graph, but we'll do it again this time, and this time we'll do it so that we can do the over-under part of the problem. But let's go ahead and do the rest of it first. So delta x will be pi over 2 minus 0 all over 4, which is pi over 8. And then our subintervals, we should have 4 of them, will be 0 to pi over 8, because you add delta x, pi over 8 to pi over 4, double check me on that, but it's right, pi over 4 to 3 pi over 8, and then 3 pi over 8 to pi over 2. So the fractions that I could reduce, I went ahead and reduced them in my head. So like the pi over 4 is the same as 2 pi over 8. So there are my subintervals, and I'm supposed to use left endpoints. So left, 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 left. By the way, if you tend to confuse left and right, it's happened to me before. If you mark the endpoints that you're using and you've gotten them mixed up, I can tell that that's what happened, or your instructor can tell that that's what happened. And so it's a really, really good idea to mark the endpoints that you're planning to use in your area estimate. All right, so now our area is approximately, so we'll do f of 0 times delta x plus f of pi over 8 times delta x plus f of pi over 4 times delta x plus f of 3 pi over 8 times delta x. And so in this problem, that works out to be sine of 0 times pi over 8 plus sine of pi over 8 and then times pi over 8 and then plus sine of pi over 4 and then times pi over 8 and then plus sine of 3 pi over 8 times pi over 8. And since only 2 of these are like unit circle values, unit circle angles, I would not simplify what you've got here at all, except for maybe to just go ahead and mark this out because sine of 0 is 0. And so that's our area estimate. And for the over-under, we should sketch a little bit of the graph of sine of x. So from 0 to pi over 2 is the part that we care about. And at 0, sine of 0 is 0, and then it goes up and peaks at pi over 2. And so here's pi over 4, here's pi over 8, and here's 3 pi over 8, at least approximately. And we're using left endpoints. So my leftmost rectangle is flat with area 0, which corresponds to that 0 part that's marked out in the area estimate. And then the second one, I'll go ahead and make it red for fun. We used f of pi over 8 to get our height, which means that we used this rectangle. And then the next one, I'll go ahead and go back to blue. For the next one, we used pi over 4 to get our height. And for the last one, we used 3 pi over 8 to get our height. So the height here is f of 3 pi over 8, for example. So based off of this picture, we can tell that we're under again. So based on the picture, this area estimate is an underestimate. We definitely have stuff missing from our rectangles that is under our curve.